obviously. At Texas A&M, they have Kellen Mond. He's done a great job at quarterback for them. But in the past, what it's taken to beat Nick Saban, what it's taken to beat Alabama has been a legitimate quarterback threat. Who beats Alabama? Deshaun Watson. Austin Allen at Arkansas, who's just throwing the ball all over the yard. The Cardell Jones playing Alabama in the semifinal to go to the national title game a few years back when Cardell Jones put together, I think, the greatest three-game run that anybody could have dreamed that he would put together between him and Ezekiel Elliott. Cardell Jones has an arm that proved to be a hose. Like as a college quarterback, Cardell Jones was the truth for the 3 games that he played. That he got thrown into a position against Alabama in injury and waxed Nick Saban. The problem is, if Nick Saban also has an elite quarterback, you can't just show up with a quarterback that runs around, scrambles, makes plays, and hope that that's enough to beat them when they have a playmaker on their offensive side of the ball. And they've never had that. Nick Saban has been winning with various versions of Andy Dalton. Just think about what that means. He's been winning with subpar quarterback play for a decade, and nobody's won more games than him in that time frame. Nobody's won more national titles than him in that time frame. No one's been ranked number 1 more than him in that time frame. There isn't a comparison to that anywhere in sports. That level of dominance without the extra talent that everybody else has at the most important position on the field, there's no comparison there. The Nick Saban is monstrously good, and now he's been given a weapon that he should never have been allowed to have. Like, if you could just somehow jerry-rig the rules of college football so that Nick Saban never gets an elite quarterback, that's how any of this gets to be actually interesting. I'm interested in what an Alabama-Ohio State game would look like. I'm a little bit interested in what an Alabama-LSU game would look like. I don't think LSU would beat Alabama or even have really a shot at winning that game. But LSU is a great defensive team, and they seem to have found something in that Joe Burrows, that quarterback-wise, Joe Burrows is the best quarterback they've had since Zach Mettenberger. And what was that, 7 years ago? 8 years ago? It's been a really long time. It's been an incredible amount of time since LSU had a quarterback who was really good. Like, Zach Mettenberger and Jamarcus Russell are the 2 best quarterbacks in LSU in the last decade, which is more than a bit depressing. It's more than a little bit sad, right? So, I mean, I give a whole lot of credit to what it is that they've done over there at Alabama, what Tua's been doing this season. If he doesn't win the Heisman is broken. He's clearly the best player. Obviously, he's got competition. Will Grier over at West Virginia is putting up numbers that look like they came out of a video game. He looks like it was just generated like straight out of a video game. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM, Punch with Keon Rose. Jimmy Butler is shaking up the NBA, and is Mark Cuban paying enough for what has happened in the culture of his program? Next.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chatter, Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A pickup truck barreled into a home on Cherryton Drive in Chattanooga at 2 a.m. on Saturday. Photos show the front of the truck completely embedded into the base of the home. The Chattanooga Police Department confirmed the driver of the truck was arrested and charged with DUI. One person was killed in a flaming wreck Saturday evening near Central High School. Reports say the driver was taken to the hospital and a passenger was killed. It happened at Highway 58 near Congress Lane. A small fire had to be put out by the Chattanooga Fire Department, which caught some of the woods on fire. A young boy was shot in the stomach on Friday evening in the area of East 14th Street. Reports said it happened around 6 in the morning. He was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are trying to find out who shot him. In Dade County, a hang glider accident hospitalized one man. Reports say the crash knocked the pilot unconscious. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
David Phillips, I Made the Move, 1 o'clock every weekday afternoon, 1 till 3, Nooga Radio.
92.7 Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect more warm and humid weather out there for your Sunday. Could see a spotty afternoon shower, but not much. Highs mid and upper 80s. Tonight, lows back into the upper 60s. For Monday and Tuesday, a few more widely scattered showers and thunder showers with highs back into the lower 80s. Control your diabetes with the help of Hamilton Diabetes and Endocrinology Center, now in Dalton and Ringgold. For more, their number 706-278-1622. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Pat for 4.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Where to go for lunch today? Go to the Top. The Top of the Hill Country Buffet offers a delicious lunch buffet every day. Golden fried chicken with mashed potatoes from scratch, daily fresh vegetables, a full salad bar with all the fixins, and fresh homemade cobbler. In addition to the buffet, Top of the Hill also offers a full menu. Plus, kids eat for $5 all day. Top of the Hill is located in Ringgold on Remco Shops Lane and is open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Where are you going for lunch? Go to the Top.
I live, work, and play in Chattanooga, the scenic city. But when it comes to my next car, truck, or SUV, I'm Alabama bound. Fort Payne, Alabama, and Landers McClarty Ford. Big city selection of new and pre-owned vehicles with the small town price and friendly service. Now, I'm not knocking my hometown, but when it comes to my next ride, I only go to Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. Their selection is huge. And if I can't find what I want, they'll find it for me with the same low price, same great service, and only a short drive away. And I can go online to look around before I leave the house. Got that next dream ride in your head yet? Yeah, you do. Get a head start at LandersMcClartyFord of FortPayne.com. Don't just dream it, find it at LandersMcClartyFord of FortPayne.com. That's right, Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne, Alabama.
Nooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric, you're our winner. Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nooga Radio.
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
You hear that? That's the sound of power. The call of the open road. That is the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. More than a bike, it's an experience and an American icon. And the place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. Ready to answer that call? Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Nicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
The kids are back in school, routine has returned, and we've shifted our thoughts to the fast approaching holiday season. Are you hosting? Want to spruce up before your guests arrive? Whether you want new color and exciting wallpaper or elegant window treatments, the designers at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating can help. With brands like York, Tebow, Graber, and Carroll, we know you'll find something you love. Stop by Chattanooga Paint and Decorating today. It's really more than just a paint store. On Hicks and Pike, across from Valvoline, or online at ChattanoogaPaint.com.
Nuga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7
Nuga Radio.
So a couple of NBA stories. It's not NBA season, so we're not going to inundate you with the NBA stuff, really. Well, let me get through some of these college scores because there were some surprising ones last night. Georgia beat Missouri 43-29.
That game was over by halftime. Missouri scored a lot of points. That game looks closer than it actually was. Wasn't all that close, but you're always going to score points if you are Missouri and you have Drew Lock. And I honestly don't know what they're going to do after him. Their coach is a defensive-minded coach, and they're bad at defense. And you could make the joke that Missouri came from the Big 12, but they were good at defense when they came from the Big 12. They won 10 games their first 2 years out of the Big 12, and it's been all downhill ever since. Michigan beat Nebraska 56-10. My Texas Longhorns beat TCU 31-16. I don't know about anybody else. I didn't see that one coming. TCU sort of hung with Ohio State last week. They got dismantled by Texas yesterday, and that's pretty much over. Texas might actually be playing for a Big 12 title, which none of us saw when they lost to Maryland at the beginning of the season, but it's distinctly possible that we underestimated Maryland. Maryland and Matt Canada, they're doing pretty well. They won 42-13 yesterday. Maryland is 3-1 and having so far a really good season. You're looking around college football, and the thing that I think we learn on a weekly basis is that we don't really know anything. Clemson, they beat Georgia Tech 49-21 to remain, I imagine, third ranked in the nation. And West Virginia takes apart Kansas State 35-6. And those were more of the relevant games there. Obviously, Ohio State played nobody and won 49-6. And Alabama, as I mentioned before, drubs Texas A&M, and Tennessee gets taken apart by Florida. But I want to shift gears to the NBA because two big things happened over the past week. One is Jimmy Butler, who is the best player on the Minnesota Timberwolves, has requested a trade from the Minnesota Timberwolves. And he was traded a season ago to the T-Wolves. The Wolves were trying to see if they could do the Paul George thing that the Thunder did, where you take a gamble on Paul George being a one-year rental and you try and convince him to stay. Everybody knew that Paul George wanted to wind up being in Los Angeles, most likely as a Laker. And Paul George spent one season with Russell Westbrook and decided, I like playing with this guy. I like playing for this team. Billy Donovan as the head coach. I like this. I think that we can do something here. So he stayed. And every other team since then has been trying to do that. The Raptors recently made that trade, trading DeMar DeRozan away for Kawhi Leonard in the hopes that they might be able to convince Kawhi Leonard to stay. But I think that Jimmy Butler is going to have to understand exactly what we learned with the Kawhi Leonard trade. Kawhi Leonard was in San Antonio. He wanted to be traded from the Spurs, and he had a list of teams that he wanted to be traded to. He wanted to be traded to the Lakers. That was the top of his wish list. And what he learned is the lesson that every player should look up and take notice of if you make a trade demand. You don't go where you want to go. You can have a list of teams you'd like to go, but if you don't have a no trade clause, you have no leverage in the situation. The Spurs didn't want to trade Kawhi Leonard inside of the conference. They didn't want to trade him to the Lakers. They didn't want to have to play him, 4 times a year? They didn't want any of those problems. And then, of course, the Lakers didn't want to make that trade either because the Lakers are like, why should we gut our roster for one guy when he's going to be a free agent next year? We wait, and then we just have him. Why would we gut our roster for that? So the Lakers didn't really want to offer too much in the trade. The Spurs didn't like what they were going to be getting back. And Kawhi Leonard was hell-bent on being traded. So the Spurs traded him. They didn't just trade him out of the conference. They traded him out of the country. The only team that's not in the continental U.S., that's the team we're sending you to. I hope you like jackets, because it's going to be real cold in Toronto. We're sending you to the opposite of Los Angeles. Toronto's a nice city. Isn't no disrespect to Toronto, but it's cold. You couldn't be further from Los Angeles and still be playing in the NBA than Toronto. And they shipped him all the way out there. Just to let him know, you don't have any leverage in this. You have none. You have zero. And we got back a good player who's under contract and can't leave. Like, you have no leverage here. So Jimmy Butler is in a similar situation. The report from Adrian Wojnarowski is that he wants to go to either the Clippers, to the Knicks, or to the Nets. All of those things sound nightmarish, but Jimmy Butler is interested in being in a larger market more so than winning, obviously, because if you want to win, those are the antithetical teams that you would go to. Those are the opposite of teams that you would want to go to if winning was your actual concern. But Jimmy Butler's a really hard worker. And this is the issue that he has with the Timberwolves, is that Karl Anthony Towns, not as hard a worker as Jimmy Butler. And from the reports, more concerned with his numbers than with winning. And Andrew Wiggins, who the Timberwolves gambled on and gave a lot of money, still plays like an average NBA player, which wouldn't be a problem, except he's being paid well above average price. And he was drafted as a #1 overall pick. And everyone believed him to be a guy that if he could ever get his motor going, if he could ever get the intensity that an NBA player is supposed to have deep down inside, that Andrew Wiggins could be a very good basketball player. Andrew Wiggins is not a good basketball player. He's That's Andrew Wiggins. Like, you watch him play, he'll give you a good game every now and then, but mostly Andrew Wiggins is giving you 15 and 7. A guy being paid what he's being paid ought to give you more than 15 and 7. Andrew Wiggins can't be the best player on your team, but he's making around that money. Andrew Wiggins can't be the second best player on your team, and you should expect to win. Jimmy Butler had enough of those guys. The head coach, Tom Thibodeau, doesn't want to trade him. Tom Thibodeau is also in charge of basketball operations, and so would be in charge of trading Jimmy Butler. He doesn't want to trade him. Tom Thibodeau is a grinder. Tom Thibodeau and Jimmy Butler are a match made in heaven. They have the same personality. But Tom Thibodeau is handcuffed. He's handcuffed to Andrew Wiggins because Andrew Wiggins makes too much money, and he is too powerfully average to trade anywhere. No one's going to pick up that contract with that production. You don't even have to look into the advanced metrics to see how disappointing Andrew Wiggins is for what it is that they're paying him to do. He's not giving you the production that you need. And it's a tough spot for the Wolves. They're going to have to trade Jimmy Butler. Like in the fact that they signed Andrew Wiggins to the long-term deal with lots of money, they don't have the leverage to really negotiate with Jimmy, but they sort of have to pretend that they want him and that they're not going to trade him so that he doesn't have no value on the trade market, but they can't have Jimmy Butler on the team. Like, he's clashing with everybody else in the locker room because no one else shares his intensity and that personality. And sometimes that's just how locker rooms fall apart. Everybody can't work together. They're just people. You work with them because you have to, but if you have a better option and you can go somewhere else, you'd rather just do that. That's where Jimmy Butler is. He's telling you, trade me or I'm just going to leave as a free agent. You can't Paul George me. You're not going to convince me to stay here with one guy that I think isn't concerned with winning as much as he is with numbers, and another guy that I think is lazy. And the Wiggins family doesn't even like Jimmy Butler because Jimmy Butler said he wanted to be traded, and Andrew Wiggins' brother said on Instagram, "Hallelujah." Just tell us how you really feel. Maybe keep that information a little close to the chest next time. So Jimmy Butler had another dig at Andrew Wiggins' brother. Just let it go. Just let it go. And then they had a fight with Steven Jackson, who's not even in the NBA anymore. It just let it go. You don't have to put all this stuff out on social media. It's bad for the locker room. You're listening to All New Nougat Radio, NougatRadio.com, 92.7 FM. The other NBA story involves Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks. The story broke a little over a year ago about how the Dallas Mavericks had an absolutely egregious work environment, especially for women. The sexual harassment was just through the roof. Like the stories that were being reported from Mark Cuban's organization is insane. And he had a sit-down interview with Rachel Nichols. I thought the interview was really good for both parties. I thought Rachel Nichols really dug in and tried to ask Mark Cuban some very difficult questions. And then Mark Cuban played the part of the contrite owner who was trying to be sorry and own up to his mistakes. Like Mark Cuban is not referenced in any of these stories as having done anything, but it is his organization, and the sexual harassment was so rampant that it's hard to believe that he didn't know about it. Even though, he was moved to tears in the interview and saying that he was sorry that this happened under his watch and that he didn't know. I find it difficult to believe that he didn't know for a number of reasons, but the biggest reason is Mark Cuban is a very hands-on owner. Mark Cuban is known for being with his players, talking to them directly. What do you want? What do you need? What makes you comfortable? How could I make the locker room better? And I mean the physical structure of the locker room, not even the chemistry between guys, though he involves himself in that too. And if all of these things are happening, how is it that Mark Cuban has rampant sexual harassment going on where women in his workplace don't feel comfortable, and a lot of them leave, and a lot of them tell the women who are being hired after them while they're leaving, hey, be careful here, right? Like you have your CEO, you have to fire him, and he's leading the charge. And you didn't know? It's hard to believe. It's really difficult to believe that somehow Mark Cuban wasn't aware that this was happening. But the NBA had a chance to punish Mark Cuban, and they didn't really. Now, Mark Cuban sort of punished himself monetarily, which I don't like the self-punishment as a punishment. If you want to punish yourself, go ahead and punish yourself. But the punishing of yourself shouldn't be used to somehow get you out of actual punishment. College football teams do this all the time. They violate some NCAA rule, they get caught, and before the NCAA can make a ruling, they go, oh, we're going to remove ourselves from bowl eligibility. We're going to limit the amount of scholarships we can give out in the hopes that the NCAA will see them punishing themselves and slap them on the wrist. And it usually works. It usually does work. I see that happen all the time. Mark Cuban donated $10 million to a number of organizations that are raising awareness about sexual harassment. And this is all good and dandy. And if that's something that Mark Cuban wants to do, Mark Cuban can do it. The issue I have is that the NBA should still punish Mark Cuban the way they were going to punish Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is insanely rich. Taking money out of Mark Cuban's pocket is not going to do anything to him in terms of letting him know that this is inappropriate and that all of these things happening on his watch simply can't happen on his watch. There's nothing that they can do monetarily outside of just saying, hey, we're going to take all of your money. And I think that kicking Mark Cuban out of the league, telling him that he has to give up his team a la Donald Sterling, that's a bridge too far. Mark Cuban didn't actually involve himself in any of these practices, and you can't prove that he knew anything, even though it's hard to believe that Mark Cuban didn't know. You can't prove that he didn't know. So you shouldn't take his team based on speculation. But there is one thing that's important to Mark Cuban. Him being the hands-on owner that he is. Being at the games. Mark Cuban is at every game. Mark Cuban is very involved. Take that away from him. Ban him for 20 games. Ban him for 40 games. Take away half the season. Ban him for the season. Tell him you can't come to any of these games for a year. He still owns the team. He can still be involved in day-to-day operations. But that would really hurt. and that would get the message across, and it would be fair. You have to do something. The league didn't do anything because he slapped himself on the wrist. He said, "Hey, no, I'm giving up $10 million, which isn't anything to Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is a billionaire with a B. The $10 million doesn't do anything to Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban probably lost $10 million in his couch last week. Like, that doesn't do anything to him. The league needed to punish him there, needed to find a creative way to punish him, and they didn't do it. They dropped the ball, and it doesn't set a really great precedent. I thought they set a fantastic precedent with Donald Sterling, which is, if you are going to be openly racist, you don't get to own a team. Period. That's a great precedent. But we live in a post-Me Too world. And if this is the world we're in, you have to make certain statements about what is acceptable in terms of sexual harassment in a workplace that you run. Each of these owners is responsible for the workplaces that they run. And some of them have to learn this lesson from Mark Cuban, if not because Mark Cuban is the most public of all the owners. Mark Cuban is America's CEO, right? Like Mark Cuban is on Shark Tank. Mark Cuban is possibly the one NBA owner, if you saw him walking down the street, you'd recognize him. You hear about the Bus family, but you see any of the Buses walking down the street, do you know him? The owner of the Bucks, whose name I can't even recall to memory. Do you know who that is? Ted Leonsis. He owns the Wizards. If you saw Ted Leonsis walking down the street, I promise you, he's a very unassuming man. You wouldn't have a clue. But we'd all know Mark Cuban. And there was a fantastic opportunity for the NBA to set a precedent about what is appropriate and inappropriate in a workplace and what responsibility the owner bears for that kind of thing. Because we'll forget about this. It's important that when these moments come up that you do something, because we do forget about this stuff. Right? Jerry Richardson, the owner of the Carolina Panthers in the NFL, he was involved in tons of sexual harassment. And not only was his work environment toxic, he was involved. He actually, there are stories of him having like a jeans Friday, which would be like a casual Friday, except the stated purpose of the jeans Friday was so he could look at his female employees and rate who looked better in jeans. And Jerry Richardson realized it was bad because he said, "Oh, I'm going to sell the team. I know what this looks like. I'm not going to hang on to this team and have all of these problems happen to me." And then Jerry Richardson changed his mind, and then we all forgot. We just all forgot that Jerry Richardson was going to sell the team because he was involved in obscene amounts of sexual harassment. You use these opportunities as you can because they don't come around incredibly often, especially when the guy is Mark Cuban. And he's that recognizable. And again, I'm not saying reach in that man's pocket and take away money. I'm not saying force him to give up the team, because that wouldn't be fair and you don't have proof. But clearly, this all happened under his watch. And there should be some punishment for that so that owners around the league know you can't allow this to happen. You've got to be on top of this. If there's this happening, we will punish you. We will kick you out of the game. Like a lot of these owners, this is ego for them. And you know how I know it's ego? Because owners could spend over the salary cap and make sure that they have a team that wins a title every year. But it's also a game for them to stay under the cap. Because if I were an owner and I had billions of dollars and winning a championship were actually the most important thing to me, there wouldn't be an amount of money I wouldn't spend on it. But there's also the competition of, well, I did stay under the cap doing it too. This is a report from Bill Simmons. He's talking with a bunch of owners, and it's a big deal to them to be able to do it and stay under the cap. That's part of the game. You don't have to stay under the cap. The rules say you don't have to stay under the cap. There's nothing that says you have to. You pay the luxury tax if you're rich enough to go over the cap. And owners don't. So it's obvious that there's some level of like connection that they all have on that. It matters. So take away their ability to be involved. That's the punishment there. You had a chance to do it with Mark Cuban to set the precedent that if you have a workplace or a locker room where things are out of control, as the owner of an NBA franchise, that's on you. That is very much your fault. And it makes sense to me, but the NBA allowed Mark Cuban to slap himself on the wrist, and that is deeply problematic. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. We're going to talk Titans, we're going to talk Falcons, and we're going to break down a lot of these matchups around the NFL. I'm going to give you my picks next. Talk to Keon Rose on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A pickup truck barreled into a home on Cherryton Drive in Chattanooga at 2 a.m. on Saturday. Photos show the front of the truck completely embedded into the base of the home. The Chattanooga Police Department confirmed the driver of the truck was arrested and charged with DUI. One person was killed in a flaming wreck Saturday evening near Central High School. Reports say the driver was taken to the hospital and a passenger was killed. It happened at Highway 58 near Congress Lane. A small fire had to be put out by the Chattanooga Fire Department, which caught some of the woods on fire. A young boy was shot in the stomach on Friday evening in the area of East 14th Street. Reports said it happened around 6 in the morning. He was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are trying to find out who shot him. In Dade County, a hang glider accident hospitalized one man. Reports say the crash knocked the pilot unconscious. Russell Stroud, Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7. Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect more warm and humid weather out there for your Sunday. Could see a spotty afternoon shower, but not much. Highs mid and upper 80s. Tonight, lows back into the upper 60s. For Monday and Tuesday, a few more widely scattered showers and thunder showers with highs back into the lower 80s. Control your diabetes with the help of Hamilton Diabetes and Endocrinology Center, now in Dalton and Ringgold. For more, their number 706-278-1622. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Report.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
My ex recently hacked my email and my social media, and it really caused me some problems. I changed all my passwords, which helped, but I'm still getting trolled, maybe even stalked. I know it's him. I just can't prove it.
My business, well, it's been broken into twice already. I've got cameras, but that only helps after the fact. I'd rather prevent it from happening in the first place.
Unity One East is your solution to these and many other security concerns. With private investigation, security services, and backed by decades of real-life experience in military and law enforcement, Unity One East is your instant contact for security, investigation, and consultation to help protect you, your family, and your business. No 1-800 number, no red tape, no wait, because Unity One East is local and available 24/7. Reclaim your peace of mind. Call Unity One East, 475-6206, 475-6206.
Whether you have marginal, moderate, or even extensive hair loss, you don't have to live with it. Finally, there's a procedure that becomes a part of you, and it requires no daily maintenance or special care. Let Apollo Hair Systems give you a free hair and scalp analysis today. Call 423-803-1011 and schedule this free evaluation today. Open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Apollo Hair Systems.
WPLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Quicken Loans.
I'm Gary Nunn. The Senate Judiciary Committee and Christine Blasey Ford have tentatively agreed that on Thursday, she will share her accusations against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. South Carolina GOP Congressman Trey Gowdy says
both Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh will live with consequences of this for the remainder of their lives.
Gowdy on CBS's Face the Nation says suggestions of an FBI investigation are a good idea.
I have no issues with the FBI taking a second, third, eighth look, if that's what it takes to find out what happened and to fully air all the facts.
Illinois Democrat Dick Durbin on ABC's This Week says today the political makeup of the panel is critical to the final vote.
This Senate Judiciary Committee, the composition is 11 Republicans, 10 Democrats. If one Republican senator should decide that Dr. Ford's allegations, assertions are true and that they are serious, it could make a big difference in the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh.
Details of Ford's appearance are being negotiated this weekend. Nearly 400,000 people could be affected by a new Trump administration proposal on qualifications for green cards. CBS's Tom Foti.
The Trump administration plans to restrict the use of public benefits by immigrants. It could also mean the administration will deny visas or legal residency to immigrants who have received such benefits, such as food aid, public housing, or Medicaid. Opponents are mobilizing.
We have laws that say you can't actually make radical changes to programs without more of a robust process. We're going to have a public comment period. We're going to be very strongly urging folks to come out and publicly comment during the 60-day period.
Jackie Vimos, a policy analyst for the National Immigration Law Center. Tom Foti, CBS News, Washington.
In the aftermath of Storm Florence, South Carolina officials have ordered more evacuations as rivers continue to rise. More waterways in the state will crest today, but some will remain at dangerous flood levels for days. Forecaster Bob Oravec.
Started to crest in a lot of places and started to go down, but it's a slow process. It's hard to get rid of 3 feet of rain in some areas very quickly.
43 storm-related deaths, 9 of those in South Carolina. Singer Paul Simon's off the road, ending his final concert tour last night in Queens, New York, just a 20-minute bike ride from where he grew up. Simon's popularity spanned generations.
We're really excited. We're big Paul Simon fans, and so were our parents, so it's extra special for us.
He performed in Flushing Meadows Park, ending the show with his final first big hit, The Sound of Silence. Former partner Art Garfunkel did not appear. Simon, now 76, is not retiring, hasn't ruled out future performances, just not touring any longer. This is CBS News.
National mortgage lender Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. Licensed in all 50 states, equal housing lender, NMLS number 3030.
Ready for fall fun? Time for a Target run. Get savings on everything you need for the outdoors, like exploring more with on-the-go snacks like Archer Farms Trail Mix on sale 2 for $7, or staying smooth on the move. Get a free $5 gift card when you buy 4 hair care products, $2.99 or more. And for fall cleaning, get a free $5 gift card when you buy 2 household essentials items. Get in, out, and on your way to adventuring. Target run and done. Pricing may vary, restrictions may apply.
Till the tears run down from my eyes, Lord, somebody, ooh, somebody, can anybody find me somebody to love?
Alexa, play hits from Queen.
Okay.
Somebody to love.
With Amazon Music, a voice is all you need. Get tens of millions of songs. Download the Amazon Music app today.
Members of so-called mega churches in North Carolina are living their faith in the aftermath of Hurricane Florence. CBS's Jim Crisula.
Members of what's called Manna Church, not far from the Army's Fort Bragg, have turned a part of their campus into an emergency shelter for Hurricane Florence evacuees. Chris Fletcher is lead pastor.
So we've got about 50 in here right now, and we have capacity for up to about 150. So we've still got about 100 more slots to take people affected by this terrible disaster.
Several local businesses have donated food, bedding, and personal necessities for storm victims at the mega church shelter. Jim Crisula, CBS News, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Tiger Woods, 18 holes shy of his first PGA Tour in more than 5 years. He carded a 5-under 65 for a 3-shot lead over Rory McIlroy and world number 1 Justin Rose through 3 rounds of the FedEx Cup Tour Championship in Atlanta. Final round today. Gary Nunn, CBS News.
Let's think about
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A pickup truck barreled into a home on Cherryton Drive in Chattanooga at 2 a.m. on Saturday. Photos show the front of the truck completely embedded into the base of the home. The Chattanooga Police Department confirmed the driver of the truck was arrested and charged with DUI. One person was killed in a flaming wreck Saturday evening near Central High School. Reports say the driver was taken to the hospital and a passenger was killed. It happened at Highway 58 near Congress Lane. A small fire had to be put out by the Chattanooga Fire Department, which caught some of the woods on fire. A young boy was shot in the stomach on Friday evening in the area of East 14th Street. Reports said it happened around 6 in the morning. He was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are trying to find out who shot him. In Dade County, a hang glider accident hospitalized one man. Reports say the crash knocked the pilot unconscious. Russell Stroud, Chattanooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather. Expect more warm and humid weather out there for your Sunday. Could see a spotty afternoon shower, but not much. Highs mid and upper 80s. Tonight, lows back into the upper 60s. For Monday and Tuesday, a few more widely scattered showers and thunder showers with highs back into the lower 80s. Control your diabetes with the help of Hamilton Diabetes and Endocrinology Center, now in Dalton and Ringgold. For more, their number 706-278-1622. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Four.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
We just started a family and we're already planning for the future. Michael Levy has helped pave the way to keep our financial future on track. He's local, he knows us, and cares about what's important to us. Don't put your future on hold. Call Michael Levy, 779-7755.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Brainerd Road, Chattanooga.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
You're listening to all new Nooga Radio at NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM.
Also check us out on Facebook, Nooga Radio 92.7 FM, and Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. Search us on YouTube, and you can watch us live on YouTube and Facebook. If you, I don't know, do you want to see the inside of the studio? It's nice looking. You know, want to see my face for whatever reason. Why you would want to see that? I'm not entirely certain, but there it is. It's out there for you. So around the NFL, we have a lot of storylines going on. Thursday night, can we get a big round of applause for the Cleveland Browns? They beat the New York Jets. Baker Mayfield looked fantastic, and they win their first game in 635 days. Granted, they should have won their first game week 1 when they tied the Steelers, but they missed a kick. They should have won week 2 when they lost to the Saints by 3. but they missed an extra point and they missed a kick. I mean, they should have already won. In fact, the Browns, you could make the very strong argument, ought to be 3-0. But the fact that the Browns are 1-1 when they ought to be 3-0, that actually feels like the Browns. That I don't think we can necessarily get around. But it is a good victory, and especially when you look at Baker Mayfield and what he was able to do in that game. I thought that he threw the ball with a lot more velocity than anybody thought. He used his mobility the way that I believed Baker Mayfield should use it. Everyone looked at Baker Mayfield's combine time and went, ugh. For a mobile quarterback, Baker Mayfield is a whole lot slower than we thought. But I never thought Baker Mayfield's game was about speed. I never thought his mobility was ever about anything than extending the play. Baker Mayfield should be playing in the pocket. But he can escape a little bit and extend plays a little bit more. He's faster than Brady, but he's a pocket passer. Right? Like there are quarterbacks with high levels of speed in this league. Even with coming off the knee injury, Deshaun Watson is one of those guys. We're going to see today with the Eagles, Carson Wentz getting the start, whether or not Carson Wentz is still one of those guys. There are guys that have a lot of speed, but they use the speed to extend the passing game. Russell Wilson is perfect at this. Russell Wilson is an incredible athlete. He's probably one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league in terms of speed, but he's a thrower of the football. He uses his escapability to extend play. So to me, it's never been important that Baker was never that fast. Baker's going to be throwing the ball. And the fact that the ball had a lot of velocity on it, had a lot of zip when he was throwing it, that's encouraging if you're the Browns moving forward. What I don't want to do with Baker Mayfield or what people did with Deshaun Watson last year or what people are doing with Patrick Mahomes right now is I don't want to fit them for a gold jacket today. I don't want to put Baker Mayfield in the Hall of Fame on the strength of one game that he played. He's going to have games where defenses start to figure out what his strengths and weaknesses are, what his tendencies are. He's going to come back down to earth. Deshaun Watson's come back down to earth. Patrick Mahomes has thrown 10 touchdown passes in 2 games. This is clearly unsustainable. Patrick Mahomes is on pace to throw 80 touchdowns, no picks this season. He's going to come back down to earth. Teams are going to figure out Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes actually reminds me of when Colin Kaepernick first started playing, and people didn't know what to do with Colin Kaepernick. Here's a guy with a super laser rocket arm. He's got tons of mobility. He's incredibly fast. He's big. He's hard to bring down. He's got that gunslinger mentality. He took that team to a Super Bowl. They didn't know what to do with him. But teams did start to figure out Colin Kaepernick. Now, will Colin Kaepernick play in the NFL again? Well, that's left to be determined. Probably not. But in terms of teams figuring out, like when we talked about like near the end of Colin Kaepernick as a starter, one of the things that makes it so that it wasn't necessarily a no-brainer with Colin Kaepernick is that teams were figuring him out. Granted, you look at the Buffalo Bills and you go, Colin Kaepernick is better than any quarterback that they have on that roster. Nathan Peterman, they dropped A.J. McCarron. They have Josh Allen, who they weren't even supposed to be starting at this point, but Nathan Peterman was so bad they had to play him. We'll talk about that in a second. Like the Bills could use his services. Like there are plenty of NFL teams where he's clearly better than what they've got on the roster. So it's still a no-brainer that you bring in Kaepernick if you need a quarterback, which is why his case for collusion is so strong. You looked at what Denver had last year. But getting back more to the point, like Patrick Mahomes reminds me of that. And he's really interesting to me because he does seem to have all the tools. Sitting behind Alex Smith for a year was really good for him. Alex Smith apparently didn't do what Brett Favre did to Aaron Rodgers and what lots of other starting quarterbacks do to younger quarterbacks. Alex Smith taught Patrick Mahomes everything he knew. Plus, he's under Andy Reid. Andy Reid is really good for young quarterbacks. I mean, he's in the perfect situation in Kansas City, but he's got to come back down to earth. I don't want to put Deshaun Watson. I don't want to put Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to put Baker Mayfield or even Sam Darnold. Like, Sam Darnold played great week 1. He played pretty bad week 2. And then he played worse in week 3 against the Browns. And we went from Sam Darnold might be the best quarterback in this draft class to Sam Darnold. Even though we know that Sam Darnold was going to struggle. Sam Darnold was always going to have to take his lumps. He's a Jet. They're awful. They lost to the Browns. That was their 3rd game in 11 days. But Sam Darnold was always going to struggle under those circumstances. That doesn't mean that he's washed. We make these knee-jerk reactions about, well, this guy's the greatest quarterback ever. And the moment that they're not the greatest quarterback ever, we turn on them. You have to be realistic. You have to be realistic about the prospects of Baker and Darnold and even Rosen when he gets the chance to play. And it's coming soon because Sam Bradford looks like the ghost of Sam Bradford as quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. And I mean, their season's about to be over anyway. At some point, you are going to have to turn the reins over to Rosen and see if the guy can play. I think that Rosen is the best quarterback in this draft class. And I'm shocked that he fell all the way to Arizona, just fell in their laps, really. But like Darnold's not as bad as he's looked the last couple of games. Baker Mayfield as a rookie is not going to always look this good. Deshaun Watson, the knee-jerk reaction now that he's coming off of this knee injury is he's no good. He's overrated. Maybe we overreacted to him when he was playing well, and he couldn't have sustained what he was doing last year. And now that he's not playing as well, we're overreacting to that too. You have to be smart about this. Deshaun Watson is going to be a really good quarterback in this league. I don't know if he's going to be an all-timer. I don't know if he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he clearly understands how the game works, and he can clearly ball. He can clearly play. But he did throw a lot of passes when he was on that hot streak last year that were kind of 50-50 balls. And this year, they're not working out for him. Right? And a lot of times he looks like a player who hasn't played a full season of football because he hasn't. And that doesn't mean that we were wrong about it. He'll be fine. But they play the Giants today. I want to transition over to this because, of course, both of these teams are 0-2. And you fall to 0-3. Effectively, your season is over. The NFL pitches us on this idea. Every year you feel like your team can make a Super Bowl. No reason for you to believe this. None. But the NFL, better than any other sport, pitches you on the idea that your team can make it to a championship annually. Season starts, we're all 0-0. We can all make it. But then something starts to happen. You lose. You lose one game, it's not done. But if you lose 2 games, your odds of making it to a Super Bowl drop to 20%. You lose 3. No team since the 90s has made it to a Super Bowl after losing their first 3 games. Season's only 16. You lose 3 games, that's almost a quarter of the season. You can't afford to lose those games. And the Giants, they're in a weird spot because the Giants thought they were going to be better. They drafted Saquon Barkley to give them a running game. Eli Manning was supposed to be better because now he's got his weapons back. He didn't have Odell Beckham last year. He didn't have Sterling Shepard. Both of those guys are healthy. And you looked at the Giants, and the Giants thought they were going to be better, clearly. Because if the Giants thought they were going to be worse, the Giants would have drafted and should have drafted a quarterback. The Giants should have drafted Darnold. The Giants should have drafted somebody to replace Eli Manning, who is looking older and older by the second. They didn't have a replacement plan for Eli. That means they thought they were going to win this year. That means they looked at that division and said, the only team in this division better than us, that's Philadelphia. We can win this year. The problem is the offensive line is garbage. I mean, they signed Nate Solder, the former Patriot, to a big deal. They overpaid him, and they overpaid him because they thought he's an offensive lineman who had some success in Belichick's scheme and in Belichick's system and in New England. And they thought that could make up for the fact that he was an up and down lineman his rookie year. And then the year after that, he's been up and down. Like, Nate Solder hasn't been a solid Trent Williams, Tyron Smith level tackle in his career. You know, you look at a guy like Lane Johnson on the right side of the offensive line. Like, those guys are elite level tackles. Yeah, he hasn't been one of those. Why they paid him all that money and thought that would fix the offensive line is incredibly beyond me. Their offensive line might be the worst in the league. It's a close tie between them or Seattle, because Russell Wilson's running for his life up there in the Northwest on a weekly basis. And I would say it's them. I don't think that Seattle's offensive line is as bad as it looks. But certainly New York's is. And so you look at Saquon, he's going to struggle because the offensive line doesn't get any penetration. They can't run the ball. They can't pass protect. So there's nothing that Odell Beckham Jr. and Sterling Shepard can really do. Plus that tight end that they have who's also incredibly talented. I mean, the Giants are in a problem of their own creation because they looked at their team unrealistically. They looked at their team with incredibly unrealistic eyes and thought, we are capable of going to a Super Bowl. And they thought last year was an aberration. You lost your receivers. But the fact of the matter is, great quarterbacks make bad receivers good. They make good receivers better. There was nothing in the way that Eli Manning played last season that would suggest to you that he is capable of doing that anymore if Eli Manning were capable of doing that at all. There's nothing about last year suggested that. So if you have Odell Beckham, does he make things easier on you? Yeah, because he can win one-on-one matchups. He's always a threat over the top. But when your offensive line is bad, Eli, who was never mobile, is older now. You put that guy in a really bad spot. Like, I don't even want to blame Eli. It sounds like I'm blaming Eli. I'm not blaming Eli. They thought that offensive line was going to be good, and I have no idea why they thought that. And you know, God forbid they get an injury. I mean, it's over. It's over. If they lose to the Texans today, they could just go ahead and pack it in. Now you should tank and actually try and get a quarterback, except last year's quarterback class was loaded. It was loaded with Darnold and Rosen and Mayfield, and you could have taken any of them, and you took none. The Browns had the number one pick, so you couldn't have taken Baker Mayfield, but you could have taken any of the other guys, even Josh Allen, if you thought we can develop him behind Eli. Any of them. And Saquon Barkley was a no-brainer of a pick for the most part. But if you're building for the future, you've got to have a quarterback, especially a quarterback who you can have on a rookie deal, who's going to be cheap, and then you can pay all the other guys on the roster and try and win with your young quarterback. And at least in Rosen and Darnold, I see two guys you can win with within that first contract before you have to pay him lots of money. Those are the two guys I thought you really had the best chance of doing it with if Baker Mayfield was going to be off the board. But that was the Giants. They thought that they had a team that could win right away. Clearly, they were wrong, and now they are on the verge of facing a must-win game. Like, week 3 of the NFL really ought not to be a must-win kind of situation. The issue is, we know the numbers in the NFL. You start 0-3, you don't make the Super Bowl. You don't go to a Super Bowl. You start 0-4, and we start asking questions about whether or not you can even make the playoffs. You're listening to All New Nougat Radio and NougatRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. So there's a story that happened last week, and I was like, man, I have to talk about this because it is the craziest story in sports. Vontae Davis, the cornerback of the Buffalo Bills, retired at halftime when they were playing the Chargers last week. He retired at halftime. He just flat out retired. They all went in at the half, And then Vontae Davis went home. When everybody went out onto the field, Vontae Davis went to his car and went home. He said he retired and he was done. And he's catching a lot of flack from this from a lot of NFL vets that played in the league. And I'm looking at the guys that are talking about this, especially on the NFL Network. I saw it on the Red Zone channel last week when they were talking about it. And who's talking about it but Marshall Faulk and Eric Dickerson and Michael Irvin? You guys are all Hall of Famers. You guys played on great teams. Marshall Faulk won a Super Bowl. Even when Marshall Faulk was on a really bad Colts team, the quarterback was a rookie Peyton Manning. There was at least a future there. They wound up trading him to St. Louis, but there was at least a future there. Like Marshall Faulk played for the majority of his career. LaDainian Tomlinson's another one on really good teams. Most of those guys won Super Bowls. LaDainian Tomlinson didn't win Super Bowls, but LaDainian Tomlinson was featured in highly prolific San Diego Chargers offenses, like monster numbers year after year. Vontae Davis is a Buffalo Bill, and I can't blame Vontae Davis for going in at halftime, sitting down at his locker, and realizing, oh, wait, I'm a Bill. That's me. I'm a Buffalo Bill. I am putting my body on the line. I am risking injury from play to play to play in Buffalo, who is actually the worst team in the league. It's not the Browns anymore. The Buffalo hasn't won a game yet this season, and they might not. Looking at the two options they have at quarterback, they actually might not. Nathan Peterman and Josh Allen, who's not ready. And I'm not a big fan of putting quarterbacks in who aren't ready to go. If you think they might be ready to go, Sam Darnold got the start. Baker Mayfield was second string. If they thought Baker Mayfield wasn't ready to go, they'd have made him third string. But he was second string. He gets to go in and play. He's ready. The Cardinals don't think Josh Rosen's ready. They got Sam Bradford. Rosen's on the bench. Last year, the Chiefs didn't think Patrick Mahomes was ready. Patrick Mahomes didn't play at all. The Bills clearly didn't believe Josh Allen was ready, and now they still have to play him because that's how bad Nathan Peterman was. Now, to the Bills' credit, Josh Allen is better than Nathan Peterman, but also I'm better than Nathan Peterman. Nathan Peterman turned the ball over, 4 times in the first half, like he did last year against the Chargers? He's terrible. He's awful. He's a very bad NFL quarterback, and every Tennessee Vols fan could have told you about Nathan Peterman. They don't like him very much. But he wasn't good when he was here at Tennessee either. Like the book, so far as Vols fans are concerned, the book was out on Nathan Peterman originally, right? Like I had a friend who in high school was dating this girl that we all knew was crazy. Like she was trying to control when he could hang out with all of us and just controlling his entire life. And we were like, he's kind of crazy, dude. And he wouldn't believe us and he wouldn't listen. And then one day they got into an argument. And he's like, oh, she's actually nuts. And then he just left. This is Vontae Davis and the Buffalo Bills. He could have realized this in training camp. He could have realized this in preseason. It took him 2 weeks into the NFL season to realize, oh, this is what it feels like to be a Bill. And I'm going to have to do this for 14 more weeks. Nah, I'm out. You're listening to Plug with Keon Rose on Nooga Radio. NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. now.
A pickup truck barreled into a home on Cherryton Drive in Chattanooga at 2 a.m. on Saturday. Photos show the front of the truck completely embedded into the base of the home. The Chattanooga Police Department confirmed the driver of the truck was arrested and charged with DUI. One person was killed in a flaming wreck Saturday evening near Central High School. Reports say the driver was taken to the hospital and a passenger was killed. It happened at Highway 58 near Congress Lane. A small fire had to be put out by the Chattanooga Fire Department, which caught some of the woods on fire. A young boy was shot in the stomach on Friday evening in the area of East 14th Street. Reports said it happened around 6 in the morning. He was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are trying to find out who shot him. In Dade County, a hang glider accident hospitalized one man. Reports say the crash knocked the pilot unconscious. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
David Toulis, I made the move 1 o'clock every weekday afternoon, 1 till 3, Nooga Radio.
92.7 Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect more warm and humid weather out there for your Sunday. Could see a spotty afternoon shower, but not much. Highs mid and upper 80s. Tonight, lows back into the upper 60s. For Monday and Tuesday, a few more widely scattered showers and thunder showers with highs back into the lower 80s. Control your diabetes with the help of Hamilton Diabetes and Endocrinology Center, now in Dalton and Ringgold. For more, their number 706-278-1622. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Four.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Where to go for lunch today? Go to the Top. The Top of the Hill Country Buffet offers a delicious lunch buffet every day. Golden fried chicken with mashed potatoes from scratch, daily fresh vegetables, a full salad bar with all the fixins, and fresh homemade cobbler. In addition to the buffet, Top of the Hill also offers a full menu. Plus, kids eat for $5 all day. Top of the Hill is located in Ringgold on Remco Shops Lane and is open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Where are you going for lunch? Go to the Top.
I live, work, and play in Chattanooga, the scenic city. But when it comes to my next car, truck, or SUV, I'm Alabama bound. Fort Payne, Alabama, and Landers McClarty Ford. Big city selection of new and pre-owned vehicles with the small town price and friendly service. Now, I'm not knocking my hometown, but when it comes to my next ride, I only go to Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. Their selection is huge. But if I can't find what I want, they'll find it for me with the same low price, same great service, and only a short drive away. And I can go online to look around before I leave the house. Got that next dream ride in your head yet? Yeah, you do. Get a head start at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Don't just dream it, find it at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. That's right, Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne, Alabama.
Nooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric, you're our winner. Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nooga Radio.
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
You hear that? That's the sound of power. The call of the open road. That is the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. More than a bike, it's an experience and an American icon. And the place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. Ready to answer that call? Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Nicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
The kids are back in school, routine has returned, and we've shifted our thoughts to the fast approaching holiday season. Are you hosting? Want to spruce up before your guests arrive? Whether you want new color and exciting wallpaper or elegant window treatments, the designers at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating can help. With brands like York, Tebow, Graber, and Carroll, we know you'll find something you love. Stop by Chattanooga Paint and Decorating today. It's really more than just a paint store. On Hicks and Pike, across from Valvoline, or online at ChattanoogaPaint.com.
Nuga Radio. Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7
Nuga Radio.
You're listening to All New Nuga Radio, NugaRadio.com. You're on 92.7 FM. The show is Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today and listening, however it is that you may be listening, whether you're listening to us on the radio, 92.7 FM, NugaRadio.com, streaming us live on Facebook and or YouTube. You could be streaming us both. We have two different camera angles. It's not even the same thing. It's not even the same thing. So I'm going to give you my NFL picks today and the final point, which may or may not be a sports opinion. In fact, I'll tell you right now, it's not. It isn't. But let's go with these picks because the 1 o'clock games, those are coming up in half an hour. And I am forced to now talk about the Washington Redskins. That is the team that I root for. They're playing the Green Bay Packers, and I think that they're going to lose to the Packers. But here's the thing. First off, the Packers are 3-point favorites. The Redskins are at home, and Aaron Rodgers' knee is still not fine. And Aaron Rodgers, per reports, is worried that his knee is going to worsen throughout the season. And I mean, it's an incredibly demanding game. And Aaron Rodgers specifically, his game is predicated on the fact that he moves around a lot. If Aaron Rodgers were Tom Brady, this is not even a question. We've seen Tom Brady go out there with the big old knee brace before. It doesn't affect him. Tom Brady doesn't run. Have you seen Tom Brady try to run? It's like a baby deer learning how to walk. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. Like Tom Brady runs so slow, he moves backwards. We saw it in the Super Bowl. He went out to go catch a pass, and then he couldn't catch the pass. Tom Brady can't run. The Aaron Rodgers game is predicated on the fact that he runs, that he's mobile, that he gets out of the pocket, that he makes plays that other quarterbacks simply can't make. And then he makes throws that nobody can make. And so the combination of those two things has always been the dangerous element of Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers wants to play the way that he knows how to play, the way that he's always played, his knee isn't going to get better throughout the course of the season, even with the knee brace. He's going to have to change the way that he plays and stop moving around, which he might be capable of doing. The Packers don't have a good enough offensive line for him to do that. They really don't. He's got to be mobile to make up for some of their deficiencies. But if he can find a little extra time, if they can give him a second or two and let him be a pure pocket passer, his knee will be able to get better. The Redskins have secondary problems, though. This is the thing. Aaron Rodgers' first 2 weeks, he went up against the Bears, where he spent half the game running away from Khalil Mack, a game that the Packers didn't win, they survived. And then they played the Vikings, and they tied the Vikings. They probably should have won that game based on a call that happened earlier, or at the end of the game, rather, with Kirk Cousins, the roughing the passer call on Clay Matthews. That was a legal hit. That was a completely illegal hit. I don't know why the NFL decided to give him a flag for that. They said he picked him up and body slammed him, but I looked at that tackle, and we may have had our issues with the NFL in the past in terms of what's a catch and what's not a catch, but I know a body slam when I see a body slam. All right, well, yeah, with the catch, does he have 2 feet down? Is he in bounds? Does he have control? Did he make a football move? Okay, sure. There's like 6 things that go into what makes a catch. I know a body slam when I see a body slam. He didn't body slam him. That call was ridiculous. The Packers really ought to have won that game. But the fact that
Aaron Rodgers struggled has a lot to do with Minnesota's defense. The Redskins don't have a defense that looks like that, especially on the back end. Josh Norman in the secondary, and they found some actual playmakers on that defense. Josh Norman obviously is the big guy, but DJ Swearinger at safety has done a good job for them as well. And the Redskins are pretty solid on that defensive line and at middle linebacker. Thanks, Alabama. But it's still tough to pick against Aaron Rodgers. So the Packers are going to win outright. The Redskins will cover the spread, the 3 points. That'll be a really close game because limited Rodgers gives the Redskins a chance to hang around. But they struggled to score last week, and I think they're going to continue to struggle to score. They just don't have the elite talent at wide receiver to necessarily do that. And until their young wide receiver Josh Doctson comes into his own, they're going to struggle scoring the ball. Next up, New Orleans and Atlanta, big-time game, divisional rivals. This is going to have playoff implications. Again, another surprisingly tense game for this early in the season. The Falcons are 1-1. The Saints are 1-1 for two very different reasons. The Falcons are 1-1 because they don't play consistently offensively. In week 1, they struggled against the Eagles, and the Eagles played poorly in that game too. The Falcons are better than what we saw week 1. Week 1 was just a complete garbage game, both sides. I don't even know what happened there. That was an atrocity to the game of football. That set the game of football back, as Nick said, like 100 years. We have made many advancements, and that set us back to the Stone Age. That's an aberration. What the real Falcons look like is the team that played Carolina last week against a dominant front seven in Carolina, led by Luke Kuechly. That front that they have, that's the real deal. Their secondary does have problems, and Matt Ryan took advantage of it, found Julio Jones, got him involved in the offense. That's a big deal. And the Saints have a different problem. The Saints can't play consistently defensively. The Saints were an elite defense last year with Marcus Lattimore showing up on their team and being able to eliminate the number one option on the other team and take a lot of the load off of the defensive coordinator for trying to figure out, well, who do I have to double team? You don't have to double team anybody when you've got Marcus Lattimore on your team. He's an elite shutdown corner. The issue is they got lit up by Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they got lit up again. And they're going to play an Atlanta team that's got playmakers all over the place. Julio Jones, Matt Ryan. Even though Devontae Freeman may or may not play today, Tevin Coleman is a high-level running back. You have just elite talent. Mohamed Sanu is no slouch for Atlanta. You've got guys who can play all over that field, and if you are struggling to stop Ryan Fitzpatrick, you're going to have a whale of a time trying to figure out how to stop Atlanta. Drew Brees gives you an opportunity. Drew Brees is the third best quarterback in the entire NFL at the moment and is actually a Hall of Famer. Drew Brees gives you a chance. They're going to score lots of points. Even in the game where they lost to the Buccaneers and Ryan Fitzpatrick, they scored 40 points. The problem was they gave up 48. And they're going to give up a lot of points today, too. 3-point favorites are the Falcons over the Saints. I'm going to take the Falcons to win outright and, obviously, therefore, to cover. The Vikings are playing the Bills. The Vikings are at home. They're 16.5-point favorites, and they're playing the Bills. So I'm going to take the Vikings. The Colts are playing the Eagles. They're 7-point favorites. The Eagles are at home. The Colts had a really good win against the Redskins last week, held them to 9 points. The Redskins are going to struggle scoring in a way that the Eagles will not struggle scoring, but this is Carson Wentz's first game back from his ACL tear last December. Seems like a really short turnaround to me. I know that the technology has gotten better and the science has gotten better, but it seems like a short turnaround to me personally, and we expect Carson Wentz to come back. I don't think he's going to be 100%. I think he's going to be testing the knee. The Colts on the road will win and cover both. San Francisco against Kansas City. Kansas City 6.5-point favorites. The Niners have been up and down. Jimmy Garoppolo got paid a lot of money in the offseason, and he's looked okay so far. He's been average. He hasn't been bad. Right? He's been all right. But Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, they look really good. And part of it isn't just Patrick Mahomes. It's that they have speed all over the field. I'm talking mostly right now about Tyreek Hill. And the fact that they are so much faster than you. Patrick Mahomes is not exactly throwing passes into tight windows. Everybody's just open. Plus Travis Kelce, who's a big safety blanket of a tight end. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs to take this one at home. Oakland versus Miami. Miami's played pretty decently. Oakland has not. Derek Carr hasn't played well. And John Gruden was left asking last week, why is it that we can't generate any pass rush? Huh. You don't know why you can't generate any pass rush, Gruden? No? You can't figure that out? If you traded away Khalil Mack, I wonder what position does Khalil Mack play? Is Khalil Mack a pass rusher? Just on the principle of the thing, the Dolphins are going to win this game until they can generate some pass rush. Maybe they can try and see if they can take Khalil Mack back in the trade. Actually, I want to trade back. You remember that from elementary school? You trade something and you have instant buyer's remorse. I want to trade back. You don't get trade backs in the NFL, Gruden. You don't get trade backs in the NFL. But that's what happens when you overpay a coach who hasn't coached in the greater part of a decade and may or may not have been that great of a coach the first time round. Tennessee is playing Jacksonville, and Tennessee is either going to be playing Blaine Gabbert at quarterback or a dinged-up Marcus Mariota. This is a problem. Mike Vrabel is off to a really rough start. They really did a really fantastic job when they beat the Texans of allowing the Texans to shoot themselves in the foot. The Jaguars aren't going to do that. And the reason why the Jaguars aren't going to do that is because the Jaguars' offense is really, really simple. Leonard Fournette is coming back, and Leonard Fournette is going to run the ball 1,000,000 times. They're just going to turn around and give it to him. Plus, Blake Bortles has improved vaguely as a quarterback. Plus, Jacksonville's defense is still elite, and I don't have any reason to believe that Blaine Gabbert, of all people, is going to be able to dominate it. And if Marcus Mariota is playing, I don't know if he's 100%, and even when he was 100%, he's not playing up to the potential that he showed early in his career, and he's going to have a tough time against Jacksonville's defense as well. Jacksonville to cover and to win at home. Cincinnati's playing Carolina in another one of the 1 o'clock games. Cincinnati looking pretty good. Andy Dalton is not the greatest quarterback in the league. He's an average quarterback. I like him. But Andy Dalton does one thing well that a lot of average quarterbacks don't do, which is if you have a great wide receiver, AJ Green is that. He's an elite one. If you have an elite wide receiver, throw the ball to him. Andy Dalton throws the ball to AJ Green when AJ Green is covered one-on-one. He throws the ball to AJ Green when AJ Green is double covered. Sometimes when he's really desperate, Andy Dalton will throw the ball to AJ Green when he's triple covered. And AJ Green is such a great receiver that a lot of times he comes down with it. Why not? That's not a bad offensive plan. Andy Dalton does the one thing, like a lot of quarterbacks feel like, well, I have to go out there and prove that it's really me. I got to go out there and prove that it's not necessarily my receivers. And Andy Dalton is like, look, I know that I'm not the best quarterback in the league, but I have one of the best receivers. I'm just going to throw the ball to him 100,000 times and just pray that he comes down with most of them. And because he's AJ Green, actually, he does. He does. The Panthers look lost offensively. This is their main issue. They haven't really clicked offensively. They outscored the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott's not very good. And then they lost last week to the Falcons, and part of it was the Falcons just blew the doors off the gym. But the other part of it was they weren't even able to sort of hang offensively with what Atlanta was doing. I know that Atlanta has a very good defense, but it's been scored on before. You have Cam Newton, a man who's won an MVP, a man who's carried his team to a Super Bowl. You ought to do better than what it is that the Panthers are doing. On the road, I'll take the Bengals to beat the Panthers outright, even though the Panthers are 3-point home favorites. Denver visiting Baltimore. This is rough. This is really rough because Baltimore is their quarterback is Joe Flacco. And you are, a lot of times as an NFL team, a reflection of three things. The city you play for. Blue collar teams tend to look like blue collar cities. When they play in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh, they look like that. The Rams are all offense and showtime and fun. What do they play? LA. A lot of times you're a reflection of the city you play for. You're also a reflection of the coach you play for. Have an emotional coach, got an emotional team. Mike Tomlin's emotional. The Steelers locker room is emotional. And you're a reflection of the quarterback. He's got the ball in his hands the most. The Ravens are a reflection of Joe Flacco. And that's not a compliment. Joe Flacco will take you to the highest of highs. Joe Flacco will take you to the lowest of lows. Joe Flacco tends not to take you very often to the middle. And the Ravens beat the Bills to death in week 1, but they're the Bills. And then he looked like he came back down to earth against the Bengals in the following week on that Thursday night game. They had a lot of rest. They're playing the Broncos. Case Keenum at quarterback. Offensively, they look okay. The Ravens defense isn't dominant like it used to be. And with all the time off, I do believe that Joe Flacco's got enough there and still enough motivation, because the Ravens are trying to use Lamar Jackson, their rookie quarterback, in every situation they can possibly use him to put some pressure on Joe Flacco. I think Flacco still feels the pressure, and they beat the Broncos, though, with that Denver pass rush. With that Denver pass rush, he's going to have to play a game where he doesn't make too many mistakes. You make one or two mistakes against this Denver defense, and you might end up giving them defensive touchdowns against you. I don't have any faith in Denver's offense, though. I'm going to take the Ravens at home. Giants and Texans. A game I mentioned earlier. Both teams fighting not to be 0-3. You fall to 0-3. Your season's over. The Giants look terrible. Eli looks bad. That offensive line looks worse. And none of those issues have been addressed. And at this point in the season, you really can't. There's really not much you could do. Deshaun Watson's going to have a better game. This Giants defense isn't scary, and he is really good. I know that people are off the Deshaun Watson bandwagon. He had that rookie mistake at the end of the game, and he didn't make a good decision, and the clock ran out while the ball was in his hands. He didn't even get the throw off. But Deshaun Watson's better than that. The Giants are just terrible. I'm taking the Texans at home. The Chargers and the Rams, so we got some Los Angeles on Los Angeles violence. The Chargers are 1-1. They had a letdown in week 1 where they lost, but then they bounced back against who else? The Bills. If you play the Bills, you are guaranteed a free victory. So congratulations, Chargers. They're playing the Rams, who look like a juggernaut. They've got it on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, Jared Goff and Todd Gurley are picking up right where they left off. This is going to be an incredibly close game. Vegas has the line at 7, so it's a touchdown game. I'm going to take the Rams because they're at home, and I think the Chargers will be able to cover. I think it'll be closer than a touchdown, but the Rams should win at home. Granted, they play in the same stadium, so the whole Clippers-Lakers thing applies, but also the Rams have more fans in LA than the Chargers do, so like all their home games when they play each other are home games for the Rams. The Seahawks and the Cowboys playing one another. The Seahawks offensive line is terrible. But the Seahawks are still, the Seahawks are what? Is that 15 or 1.5? That's 1.5 point favorites. The Seahawks are 1.5 point favorites against the Cowboys. Look, the Seahawks offensive line is not as bad as it looks. Part of it is the scheming, right? Like that right tackle that they have over there, that man is on an island, and he has been up against Khalil Mack, first off, who makes everyone look bad. And then they played Denver in week 1 with Von Miller. Von Miller makes everybody look bad. You can't hold that against him. Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense looks depressed. They haven't figured out how to get the ball moving. I'm going to take the Seahawks at home. Chicago and Arizona. Arizona's bad. Chicago's a little bit better. Matt Nagy, the offensive coordinator, is an incredibly brilliant mind. And as I mentioned before, Khalil Mack. So even though the Cardinals are supposed to be favorites, I'm going to take Chicago on the road to beat Arizona. New England playing Detroit. The Lions haven't won a game yet. The Lions also haven't played a single game in which they have looked like a competent NFL team. They are playing the Patriots. Even though the Patriots are on the road, I'm going to take the Pats. to beat them by more than 7. I mean, that's a weird line. Steelers and Bucks. The Steelers are in free fall. They're in dysfunction. They have infighting. The running back hasn't yet reported to the team. Players are calling him out on social media, and it's a gigantic mess. I think Mike Tomlin's lost control of that locker room. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with Jameis Winston out, have found Ryan Fitzpatrick, or as I should copy everybody else in saying, Ryan Fitzmagic. Does Fitzmagic continue? I think it does this week against the Steelers because they just haven't looked very good. And that's on Monday night. But yeah, across the entire NFL, that's the week ahead. If you use my advice for gambling advice, don't do that. I promise you that you will not make any money listening to me. And now, right, we've got like 10 seconds, the final point. And the final point is this. Machine Gun Kelly decided that he was going to get into a rap diss battle with Eminem, and as a result, his career is over. My advice to any and all people trying to do this, young rappers in particular, if you have it in your head that you're going to go at Eminem, if you're going to mention the name of his daughter, don't do that. He's going to level you. He's going to level you. You're listening to Country Keon Rose here on Nuke Radio 92.7 FM. Thank you so much for listening to me today. Sean Hannity, next.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A pickup truck barreled